I almost got shot in Mexico, almost got killed. And no, this video is not clickbait. This really happened to me. And I'm going to share the full story with you because I did promise you full transparency on this channel. And we're going to continue on this path. This is an experience that's really hard to share for a number of reasons. There are like long-term implications here. As you probably know, or as you probably have heard of, we are backing Mexico heavily. So we do make money promoting services in Mexico, residency services, long-term visas, real estate, and more. So there are long-term implications here for our company. There are long-term, like personal implications here, and I'm gonna get to this in a moment. And of course, I'm also gonna share the full story covering the incident with you inside this video. So we're not gonna leave any stones unturned, and this incident is already quite a bit in the past, and I waited with shooting this video. I honestly don't know if this video will ever get uploaded or not, or if it will ever get published. Because like I said, there are long-term implications here for myself, for our company, and pretty much for my whole life and for you as well. Before I'm going to share the full story with you, I just wanted to make clear that this incident, it could have happened in many countries worldwide. This problem is not uniquely Mexican, even though the probability of this incident happening are just much greater in Mexico than in many other countries. I know that many of you are located in Asia and in Europe, so once you get to hear the story, you will probably be scratching your heads and asking yourself, you know, what the hell is going on? What is this guy doing in Mexico? Why is he living in Mexico? Or why is he even spending time there if it's not safe? And there's certainly truth to that, and we're going to cover this too. I have to say that the chances of this incident happening were always there, and I was fully aware of it. It wasn't like I was not aware of this specific problem, because it's there. It was always there. I was always aware of it. You know how it is in life. You hope that something like this will never happen to you. Unfortunately, it did happen to me. There are some things I did right, some things I did wrong, and we're going to cover this too. I'm going to explain to you everything about it. Before we talk about the incident, I just wanted to say that I do like Mexico. I had a good time in this country many times. I met friends here, I vacationed here. There are a lot of good things that happen here. But to be fair, there are also a lot of bad things that happen to me in this country. And like I said, I promised you full transparency on this channel, and I don't really care about how this video might impact our company's profits, because to me that's secondary. What's primary is for me to share the truth, and I want to retain high levels of full transparency because I know that many of you guys will appreciate that. And sometimes in life it's not about profits, it's about doing the right thing. And I think I'm doing the right thing here for you guys and also for myself. Even if it hurts our company's profits, I'm going to say what I want to say, and I'm going to say what happened to me. There are long-term implications here that will affect our company and also myself, like how much time I will be spending in Mexico going forward might be greatly impacted by publicizing this video, but I'm going to do it anyway. So I was on this road trip from Mexico City to Veracruz, and to be honest, I have done this road trip already a few times before, and during the past times nothing really happened. Otherwise I would have shared it with you as well. But this time around a lot of weird things happened, and it was actually a series of occasions that happened that I haven't really publicized up to this point. So it isn't just about me almost getting killed on this road trip. There are a number of events that happened that really shook me, because those events happened literally in less than 24 hours. And the probability of those things happening again are probably 1 in a million. It's just a matter of fact. Like, for all of those things to happen in the same period of time and the way they played out, it's 1 in a million. So this is actually a very rare scenario, and the fact that I survived this and how I survived it is actually also quite, shaking. So I'm gonna get to this in a moment. So I was on this road trip from Mexico City to Veracruz, and Veracruz is one of my favorite states in Mexico for a number of reasons. There are not that many tourists going to Veracruz, and one of my favorite cities in Mexico is the city of Orizaba. I actually think it's my favorite city in Mexico for a number of reasons. It's very laid back. Like I said, there are not many tourists there, and if there are tourists, it's mostly tourists from, Mexico. It feels really Mexican, and I like that. I like places that feel very genuine. And to me, Orizaba is such a place. Thankfully, I was able to meet some people there, so I have a friend in Orizaba and I was going to see her. But it's not the reason why I went on this road trip. The reason why I went on this road trip is to spend more time in Veracruz Puerto. Also a city that I like. I think it's the first city the Spanish colonized in Mexico. I know they landed in the Yucatan state and also in Veracruz. And some reports say that the Spanish first landed in Veracruz, so in that state. Other reports say that it was in Yucatan, so I don't exactly know. But anyway, it's one of the oldest cities in whole Mexico. I'm talking about the city of Veracruz. And you know how it goes. You know, I rented a car because I came from another country, and you know, it's just how it is. So I drove from Mexico City to Puebla because that's, you know, very typically the route that you take. And if you know anything about road safety in Mexico, if you know anything about like bad roads that you shouldn't take, there's actually a lot of cartel activity between Mexico City and Puebla. It's just how it is. And you know, there have been many reports about it. There have been, you know, a lot of information about it published on the internet. But anyway, I've never experienced anything like it before, but this time something bad did happen to me. The night before I left Mexico City for Veracruz, something really strange happened to me too. Like I was staying in Roma Norte, you know, between Roma Norte and the city, like the center of Mexico City. And I was headed, you know, to an OXXO where I already went a few times, you know, during that trip, during that stay of mine. Anyway, I'm never going to forget this experience because I was trying to get into the OXXO, you know, I was trying to open the door and I couldn't open the door. The door was locked, and then I'm like, that's weird because OXXO is supposed to be open 24/7. You know, it's like a convenience store in America. You know, it's supposed to be open 24/7. It's like Circle K, it's like Stripes, it's like, you know, 7-Eleven, so it's supposed to be open 24/7. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then I tried to open the door and I just wasn't able to open it. And then I took a closer look what was going on inside, and that place was getting robbed, which was crazy. And the moment I saw that, you know, I quickly vanished because I'm like, I don't want any part of that. I'm actually very lucky that they did lock the door because you never know what happens when you get inside, you know, how people react or what they might think about you. So I'm like, this is no good. This is no good. I just left, and I'm like, in my mind, I thought, you know, I can find another OXXO. I don't need to wait for this one to reopen. And then that was the end of that. So that was already really weird to see that live. Not a really fun experience either, but it could have been worse. You know, the place could have gone robbed when you were inside, and that would have been a lot worse because, you know, there's no way for you to escape until that incident played out. Whatever the end result might be, you know, you were there, and that's it. You can't really change it, you know. And so that was also kind of weird that happened, but you know, the chances of you seeing that once in your lifetime are definitely there. I mean, this can happen in many countries too, and it did happen in Mexico City that night. Okay, then the next morning I go to the car rental agency. I went with Alamo. They're quite big in Mexico. They're quite big in many countries. So I went with them because I typically had very good experiences getting my deposit back. And you know, I took a 0% deductible. That's what I do all the time, which includes pretty much anything happening to the car with the exception of you driving on unpaved roads. And if anything were to happen to the interior of the car, then that is also not covered by the insurance. You would have to pay that yourself. That would be your expense, right? So I always take a 0% deductible because, you know, oftentimes when you get the car, you know, you have very little time to check it, and at that specific place, you know, where they parked the car, which was literally on the road, you know, with a lot of cars, you know, passing by and stuff, you don't really have that much time to look at the car in detail to make sure that, you know, because they do a report where they mention all the scratches and stuff. So if you have a 0% deductible, they are still doing it, but it doesn't matter as much because you're not going to pay for it anyway, because something did happen to the car, which I'm going to get to in just a moment. Okay, so, you know, signed the contract, took the car, and off we were. And I traveled with my dog. All right, let's get straight to the incident, because this is what you've all been waiting for. Whenever you go on a road trip in Mexico, you have to pay your tolls. There's just no way around it. You know, maybe there's another option, I don't know, but I always pay for that. You know, in America, the interstate, it's free, or the interstates, they're free. You know, you don't pay for it. I mean, you pay for it, you know, it's paid for by taxes, but there's no toll imposed on you, which is good. In Mexico, the roads, you know, the good roads for Mexican standards, they are all toll roads, and you have to pay to use them. It's just how it is. And the roads aren't as good as they are in America, so you're paying for an inferior product, in my humble opinion. To be fair, many roads in Mexico are quite good. They're acceptable, but many are not. Some of them are still under construction, and you still got to pay for them. It's just how it is. So, you know, on the way from Mexico City to Veracruz, you actually pay several times. And I think I ended up paying like a total of maybe 700 to 800 pesos, if I'm not mistaken. And that's for a car. That's not for a motorbike. That's not for a truck, right? That's for a car. So I got to this toll station between Mexico City and Puebla. I still don't exactly know where it was. I don't really remember exactly, but it was between Mexico City and Puebla. It was kind of like midway. And you know how it is. You get there, you don't really know how much it is, how much you need to pay. And yes, I'm a gringo, so I do take longer. And the following thing happened. I got to the toll station. The lady told me how much it was. And, I had to get my money, and I checked if I had any change, because when you're using the toll roads a lot, you know how it is. You get a lot of change, and I tried getting rid of that change first because I don't want to end up with a ton of coins or smaller notes. So I typically try to eliminate those as quickly as possible, and that naturally leads to me taking more time to make the payment. So as I was doing that, there was a red truck behind me that was getting very impatient, honking a lot, getting closer, just going really psycho for literally no reason, because there wasn't like a large line of cars, it was just him and me. And then I gave the lady the money, the cashier the money, and she returned some too. And I got the ticket, and the guy behind me was just getting more and more impatient doing this. And then I opened the car door, and I got out of the car quickly, and I just asked him, "¿Qué pasó? What's going on?" And then he just gave me weird looks like this, he rolled his eyes and stuff. And then I'm like, "What are you doing? Why is this happening? This is so unnecessary. It's like road rage. There's no need for that." And then before I even had a chance to get back into the car, he continued honking and getting closer and all of this. And I then closed the door of the car. And if someone puts a lot of pressure on you, like it happened here, like, you can react in all kinds of different ways. A lot of people would just take more time because they don't like being stressed. There are some people that would lose it completely. There are some people that, might actually act faster because they don't want to upset the person behind them, or because they're scared, whatever. So how I reacted first was I was actually taking more time because I don't like being stressed. That's just how it is. And a little bit more time. I didn't take minutes or so. I just take a few seconds more, and that already upset him. He obviously, I think he just had his money prepared because he's taking this road probably a few times a week, even every day. So he knew how much it was, and he had the money prepared and all of that, and it's just quicker, and I did take more time. So maybe that's my fault. But then it escalated really quickly. So he kept doing it, and this happened in like literally just maybe like 15 or 20 seconds, And then I just lost it too a little bit. I just pointed the middle finger at him. And then in the rear mirror, I saw that he also pointed the middle finger at me. I'm like, okay, whatever. And then I put the money there, and he kept doing it, and I just left. I went on the highway. Next, I tried getting away from him, which was really important because I didn't want to have any association with a person like that. Very poor etiquette, rude. And so I accelerated on the highway, and maybe I should have just stopped there at the toll station and just let him go. But I accelerated, just wanted to get away from him as quickly as possible. And he just followed me very closely, like with minimal distance, which was kind of scary because, you can get in an accident, especially if I have to brake, which ended up happening a little bit later. So once I exited the toll station, right, I went on the right lane, and he kept following me very closely, like there was minimal distance. And so I kept accelerating because I just wanted to get away from him, I didn't want to create any more problems. And then there was a truck on the middle lane, so very slowly, and I just stayed on the right lane. I overtook the truck, and there were 3 lanes, right, the right, the middle lane, and the left lane. So I stayed on the right lane, the truck was on the middle lane, and the red truck followed me very closely on the right lane. And then as soon as we both overtook the truck, like this, he came on the middle lane, scrolled down the window, and he pointed a gun at me. And it was a real gun. He pointed at me. There were 2 people in the car, which I had already seen before. It was a woman and him, and he was driving. And so he kind of reached like this, right? And I already saw this coming before it happened because his window was down, and he kept coming very close to me, even when he was on the middle lane. And the moment I saw that, I saw it like a little bit before he caught up, and then I broke really hard. I don't know if he fired or not. It's very possible that he fired at me, which is kind of hard to hear on the highway. It's like if someone's honking at you on the highway, we don't really hear that because there's too much road noise. So I don't know if he fired or not. It's very possible, and given how it played out, I think he actually did, but I don't really have proof for that. But then after I saw that, I didn't even think this was a possibility. I think he was just going to try and harass me. But to point a gun at someone for something this trivial and something that he really initiated himself for no reason, it's really mind-blowing to see this kind of situation. I mean, road rage is something that's very common in America too. It's common everywhere. It's just that the people with guns in Mexico are the bad people. So I broke really hard, which dented the rim on the front left tire. And then he also broke, but not as hard as me, because he didn't expect that. I don't know what his expectation was. I think he was trying to shoot me. And then there was a gas station there, thankfully, where I exited the highway because I didn't want to have any more parts. And thankfully there was a gas station to my right, so there was an exit. And this happened literally moments after, seconds after. And that was kind of fortunate that there was a gas station, because if not, I wouldn't have known what to do. I probably would have just stopped and waited to see what he was going to do, whether he was going to reverse or do whatever. I have no idea, but thankfully there was an exit there and a gas station. So imagine this happened right after the toll station, correct? That gas station came to my rescue big time, because the moment I exited there, he also attempted to exit the highway. So I exited to a gas station, and thankfully there were a ton of Guardia Nacional on that gas station. A ton. There were like 7 police cars, because they were investigating the murder of a person. There was a dead person laying on that gas station who just got shot dead right there. And this happened moments ago too. Like an unbelievable incident. And the fact that this happened, the fact that this gas station came to my rescue, moments after, or a moment after, the guy pointed a gun at me and had the worst of intentions ever. This gas station and this person who was laying dead on the gas station, he came to my rescue. Because if there would have not been a dead person on that gas station, maybe I'd be dead now. Who knows? Because that red truck, like I said, he attempted to exit the highway with me. And I don't know how this would have played out or could have played out. It's hard to say, but the moment he saw that there were a lot of cops there, he quickly went back on the highway, because he knew that he was going to get in a lot of trouble. And so he did get back on the highway. He accelerated really fast, and I ran straight into the cops. And I told them about this incident just now. And they told me that the person laying right here, and I have a photo and video of that person died on that gas station moments ago. And they were looking for the guy who shot that person. An absolutely bizarre experience. I told them about the incident, The problem is that it was a very emotional experience, and I had to explain myself in Spanish, which was even more difficult at the time, because I was I was just shocked, very paralyzed. And it took me a long time to explain myself, because I couldn't even realize what happened. I could not comprehend that this happened to me. I was so shocked. And then I saw that person laying there. I mean, it was even more like, this really made the emotion stronger, because I thought to myself, this could have been me. And if you consider the odds of this series of events happening in such a short time span, what are the odds? The fact that this guy lost it completely behind me, the fact that he had a gun and that he attempted to shoot me, and then seeing a dead person lying on the gas station. This is like 1 in 100,000 and 1 in a million, because there was another event that happened right after that, which was also rare to witness, which I'm going to get to in a moment. So I explained it to them, and then finally they got me a guy who was able to speak English, because in Spanish that's kind of hard to explain. So I told that one officer that aquí hay una persona en el coche rojo quien tiene una pistola. So I told them about that, and first of all they asked more questions, and they asked me where he was, and so then I explained myself to them that that person went back on the highway and he pointed a gun at me, and the moment he saw you guys, he went straight back on the highway. So I kind of tried explaining this in Spanish, but it was hard. First of all, my Spanish is far from native, and secondly, it was just a very emotional experience that I had, so I had a really hard time explaining myself. There was a lot of emotion, and there still is a lot of emotion, a lot of heaviness to this whole experience, which will probably take a long time to recover from, because the long-term psychological effects, they're always there. An experience like this stays with you forever. It doesn't go away. The emotions might go away, but you're never going to forget what happened to you, how it happened to you, and you will picture this for a long time to come. It's the nature of a very emotional event. I'd call it a high-impact event. And then they got me a guy who spoke English. I explained it to him in English, and the moment I explained to him in English, they sent like 2 cars off to chase down that guy. The problem is that all of this took minutes, so the guy was long gone. For sure they didn't catch him. And I doubt that he was the guy who shot that other person that there. He could have been, but probably unlikely. And then after I explained myself, if this would have happened to me in America, they would not have let me go so easily. The incident would have gotten reported. In Mexico, it did not get reported. In America, this would probably classify as attempted murder, which gets you several years in prison. It's just a matter of fact. In Mexico, nothing happens because law enforcement is weak in Mexico. Mexico got a very weak rule of law. America got strong rule of law. Mexico got weak rule of law. This incident got reported. And who knows how many people this guy already killed in the past. Okay, so I went back on the highway and continued my journey. And minutes later, I saw a tornado, which was also kind of shocking because I'd never seen one in real life. The moment I saw this tornado, I was like, there's some higher power here that's giving me signs or a sign. And this higher power, whatever it is, whatever this higher power means to you, whatever it signalizes to you, to me, it told me that everything in life is only temporary. What it also told me is that there's someone greater than me, more powerful than me, who protected me in this very instance. Because the fact that this series of events played out the way it played out, I just can't explain this. I just can't explain it because technically I should have been dead. Given the magnitude of this incident and given the actions taken by the assaulter, I should have been dead. And maybe I would have been dead had I not run into those cops at the gas station. Had it not been for that dead person lying on the gas station, I would probably be dead now. I would probably not be talking to you. And this would have probably been all over the news. So this really happened, and it's crazy how this played out because I did not expect it. I never expected anything like this to happen to me. And like a few days later, I returned the car, and there were some problems with the car. The front left rim got dented. There was a dent, and they asked me what happened. And I didn't even want to explain this to them because I told them I got a 0% deductible. I'm not supposed to cover this with my own money. And then they said, first they wanted to charge me for it, and blah blah blah. And then there was actually also a problem with the like the bumper. It was torn a little bit. I don't know how that happened. It could have been related to this incident, or maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I just didn't see that. And anyway, then I returned the car, and that was the end of that. So when I told my friends about that, they were like, why are you staying in Mexico? I would have left right after the incident played out. There's no way that I could still be staying in this country and feel safe. And I totally get it. So the first, I would say 2 to 3 days after the incident were extremely emotional. I started questioning a lot of stuff. I started regretting my response to it, even though this could have happened anywhere or in many countries. I wouldn't say anywhere because in many countries you can't even have a gun. And also there are no bad people with guns. In Mexico, that's just the polar opposite. Many people I talked to about this, they told me, I don't believe this happened to you, you're making things up. And I'm like, no, I'm not making things up. This really happened to me. And then, it's not like you recorded this incident because you were so busy surviving. I was occupied surviving. I could not record this. However, I did record the dead person lying on the gas station. I did record the tornado. I also did not record the incident that happened at the Oxxo the night before. Whenever something like this happens to you, you don't really have the time to record this incident. You're so busy making sure you're going to get out of this situation alive that this is all that matters to you. And I talked to my best friend about that, and he was like, of course, you had no option, no chance to record this because you were in great danger, my friend. And I was in great danger, and I think on the highway I did react well. I performed well. What could I have done differently? What would I have done differently? I think I should not have pointed the middle finger at him, even though I've done this in many countries before, and so far nobody had pointed a gun at me ever. But it did happen in Mexico, and I learned from this experience, and now we're gonna get to all of this, like the learning lessons here. And this is like a high impact video. Me publicizing this video is a high impact decision, not just for myself, for my own personal life, for how I will proceed with spending time in Mexico going forward. It's also a big life-changing decision for my business because I'm telling you guys everything that happened to you. And like I pointed out, I think already twice throughout this video, I promised you full transparency, and that's what you're gonna get with me and from this channel. because I'm not a fan of half-truths. I'm a fan of the full story, of the entire picture, and that's what you're getting when you're part of Nomad Elite. This experience, it changes everything. And the reason why it changes everything is because, yes, I will be spending less time in Mexico. This is just a matter of fact. This experience stays with me forever. I have no ambitions to erase this experience from my subconscious mind. It's a hopeless undertaking. I know that this experience will stay with me forever. I know that this experience shaped me into the person who's talking to you right here, right now. And without a question, this was a very high impact life incident, because I will be spending less time in Mexico for a number of reasons. First of all, I want to be in a country where either A, the government protects me from things like that happening, which is not the case in many countries because many bad people have guns in many countries. And in Mexico, I think that's extreme because the people with guns in Mexico, they have the guns illegally, like the overwhelming majority. There are only 2 gun stores in Mexico. Try getting a gun in Mexico. It's practically impossible unless you're working for a high-level security company. You will probably not get a gun in Mexico. Just take a look at security at apartments, nobody has a gun, which makes them weak in the eyes of defenders. Just look at apartments, look at gated communities. Security at those gated communities, they don't have guns. They cannot get guns, which makes them weak in the eyes of attackers because they can't defend themselves, nor the residents of the apartment, right? The residents of the gated community, which is also a problem. So the government does not protect you here. You're just not protected. Law enforcement does not protect you. I told them about the incident. They didn't even want to report it. They didn't even ask many questions, which is a big deal. You have to ask yourself if you want to be paying taxes to a country like this. You're like, well, nobody in Mexico pays taxes anyway. I get it. There's a lot of truth to that. I wouldn't say nobody is paying taxes in Mexico. I would say many people or most people are not paying income taxes in Mexico. And we're talking about Americans, Canadians, Europeans. The people who are paying the taxes are the big corporations because they're not getting away with it tax-free. But you're still paying taxes, you're paying taxes on food, on electronics, you're paying taxes on other things, but you're just not paying income taxes. At least that's what a lot of people don't pay. And then, the second thing is that I cannot protect myself in Mexico. I cannot legally protect myself in Mexico. If I carried a gun on me, things would have been very different. I'm still not sure if I would have engaged that person. However, I would have felt a lot more secure. And if you're in a situation like this, where somebody points a gun at you, you have all the right to protect yourself, which I would have done. Will I ever visit Mexico again? Yes, I think I will. Yes, I think I would. But I will be spending less time here. And maybe this statement is temporary. I don't know that. But now I'm definitely spending less time in Mexico because this incident was pretty dramatic. I was in great danger and it definitely left a mark. And the main problem here is that I don't want to go out having to worry about this all the time. I don't want to be living in a place where this is even remotely a possibility. I mean, this is a possibility in Texas, don't get me wrong, but in Texas I can protect myself. But many people wouldn't pull out the gun because there is a consequence to that action. In Mexico, there is no consequence. And because there is no consequence in Mexico, people are getting away with it. Like I said, who knows how many people that person already killed, threatened, whatever. Like 99.999%, he owns his gun illegally. His gun is not legal, and that's a problem. And those are American guns, my friend. They're being brought from the US into Mexico illegally. And then they end up in the hands of cartel and other bad dudes. It's a very sad situation, but it is what it is. You can only control your own world. You cannot control other people's worlds. The only thing you can do is stay away from things like this going forward. And this is the decision that I made. Like I said, I know this is a very high impact event that happened, and it changed me forever. And it also changes how I think about law enforcement here, even though I already know those things before. It changes how I will communicate these subjects going forward, because like I've pointed out already several times, I'm communicating full transparency on this channel as much as our employees are communicating full transparency on this channel, because we want to help you. We want to give you the full story. We're about full transparency, okay? And this is what truly happened to me. This event really happened to me. And if you have anything to share here, if anything similar happened to you, if anything of great danger happened to you in Mexico, share your thoughts in the comments below. As always, we appreciate your attendance, and we see you on the next video.